What's good, everybody? It's about Church about the Beard, and this one Bible sharing is my 2026 men's March Madness bracket predictions. So yeah, I don't watch the regular season like that. So this is just from what I've been hearing a lot of people say and from what I've been watching from the conference tournaments. So without further ado, let's get started. So we got Duke versus Siena. Come on. I'm not taking no 16 seed to beat a 1 seed. That's just stupid. Even though, yeah, they beat a 1 seed twice, but that's just not happening. Next, we got Ohio State versus TCU. That could be a good game. But I think Ohio State is going to win that. I think they're a little better than TCU. I've never watched either of them play this year. Next, we got St. John's versus Northern Iowa. I think that is. I'm going to take St. John's to beat Northern Iowa easily. Next, we got Kansas versus Cal Baptist. I'm going to take Kansas to win that one. Next, we got Louisville versus South Florida. I might be biased for this team, but I think South Florida is the most dangerous double digits seeded team this year in this tournament. And I think they can make a good run in March Madness. So therefore, I'm going to take South Florida to beat Louisville in the first round. Next, we got Michigan State versus North Dakota State. I'm easily going to take Michigan to win there. Next, we got UCLA versus UCF. I think UCLA is a good sleeper team for that 7 to 10 line. So I'm going to go UCLA. UCF probably could win, but I think UCLA is just better than UCF. UConn versus Furman. Come on, I'm not taking no 15-seeded Furman to beat UConn. That's crazy. Next, going to move on. To the top over here, to the West region. Sorry about that. But we're gonna move on to the West region where we got Arizona versus ILU. I'm obviously gonna take Arizona, even though I'm not high on them like a lot of people are. I'm still gonna not take a 16 over 1 like I said. Next, we got Villanova versus Utah State. That game could go either way, but I'm gonna take Villanova to win that one. Wisconsin versus High Point. I don't know about this one, but I'm going to take High Point to win that game. Arkansas versus Hawaii. Hawaii could definitely win because they haven't been in the tournament however long. But I do think because Arkansas's got Darius Acuff Jr. or Akuf, however you say his last name, on their team. I just think they're just a better team overall. Next, we got BYU versus Texas or NCST. Nah. I don't think BYU is going to lose to either of those teams out of who wins. Gonzaga versus Kennesaw State. Give me Gonzaga to win that one. Next, go Miami versus Missouri. Come on, I'm going to take Missouri in the 10-7 game. I like that upset right there. And then we got Purdue versus number 15 seeded Queens. Nah, I don't think Purdue's going to lose. Purdue has a solid team. They're not losing. Next, we go to the Midwest region where we got Michigan versus over 16 seed. Once again, 1 seed's not losing to a 16. Georgia versus St. Louis. This one, I was thinking that could go either way. I was kind of thinking on that, but I think no matter who wins out of this game is not beating Michigan next round. So I think for this game, I'm going to take the 8 seed of Georgia to beat St. Louis. Next, we got the 5-seeded Texas Tech versus 12-seeded Akron. If Texas Tech still had JT Toppin, I would definitely pick them to beat Akron. But since they don't, I'm gonna take Akron to win that game. Next, we got Alabama versus Hofstra. Give me Alabama easily. Next, we got Tennessee versus either Miami, Ohio, or SMU. I'm glad they gave Miami, Ohio in the tournament after them going undefeated in the regular season, but I don't think no matter who Tennessee goes against, they're not losing to either or, so give me Tennessee. And I'm sorry if the whatever you call it is blurry. Sorry about that. Bear with me. And then give me Virginia to be Wright State in that 3-14. Next, we got Kentucky versus Santa Clara. That could go all the way. But I'm going to take Kentucky even though they probably are seated a little too high. And then I'm going to take Iowa State to be Tennessee. Now we're going over here to the South region where we got Florida versus whoever that 16 seed is. Give me Florida. Next, we got Clemson versus Iowa. I'm going to take that 9 seed Iowa to be Clemson. I like that upset there. Vanderbilt versus McNeese. I'm not high on McNeese this year, and I like Vanderbilt because they've been doing pretty good just recently being in Florida. So give me Vanderbilt to move on. Nebraska versus Troy. Nebraska has never won an NCAA tournament game, so I'm going to take the chance and take Nebraska to win their very first ever one in school history. Oh, this one could be a toss-up because North Carolina doesn't have, whatchamacallit, Caleb Wilson, or whatever his name is, the best player on their team, but I think even without him, they could at least move on to the second round. Illinois versus Pennsylvania, if that's what that is, I'm going to take Illinois. Illinois to win. St. Mary's versus Texas A&M. Give me that 7 seed St. Mary's over that 10 seed. Houston versus Idaho. Obviously, I'm going to take Houston to win that one. Next, we're moving back up to the top, where we're going to the second round. Florida versus Iowa. Give me Florida to win there. Vanderbilt versus Nebraska. Nebraska is just not good. They're not a good shooting. I mean, they're a decent shooting team, but if they play how they did against Purdue and can't rebound, they're easily losing. So give me Vanderbilt to move on against Florida. Next, we got North Carolina versus Illinois. I just don't think even though I wanted North Carolina to be a Cinderella or make it far, I just don't think so without Caleb Wilson. So I'm going to take Illinois to win there. I'm easily taking Houston. Moving on. Back to the top over here. Where we got Arizona versus Villanova. Give me Arizona to move on. Even though I don't like Arizona, I'm not high on them because of how much they've choked before in the past years. But I'm still going to pick them right there. And this is where the run ends for a high point. I don't see them being Arkansas. So give me them. Next, we got BYU versus Gonzaga. Yeah, BYU is without one of the players. But I still think they're going to beat Gonzaga in that one. Got Missouri versus Purdue. Obviously, I'm going to take Purdue to win that one. No questions asked. Next, we got Michigan versus Georgia. Like I said earlier in the video, whoever wins out of this matchup is not going to be Michigan. So give me Michigan to move on. I just don't think Akron's good enough to beat Alabama. So I'm going to take Alabama. Next, we got Tennessee versus Virginia. I like this Virginia team because especially that big man, if he plays how he did in the ACC championship game or whatever second to last round against Duke, I definitely think they can definitely win if he gets blocks and plays good defense and if they can guard the 3 and stuff. So I like them to beat Tennessee right there. Next, we got Kentucky versus Iowa State. Kentucky is just not good enough. So I'm going to take Iowa State. Next, moving on. Back to the top here. Second round, we got Duke versus Ohio State. Ohio State could definitely knock Duke off and get him out of here. Especially when Duke is having some injuries. But I just don't think Ohio State is going to have to beat Duke. So give me Duke there. Next, we got St. John's versus Kansas. I don't believe in this Kansas team. So give me St. John's to move on against Duke. So yeah, I'm going to take Michigan. I forgot one more first round matchup, but I'm going to take Michigan State to beat North Dakota State. And then South Florida, like I said, they're the most dangerous, in my opinion, the most dangerous double-digit seed in this tournament. So as much as Michigan State has a good team and has a good coach, Tom Izzo, I just don't think they're good enough to really beat South Florida. This team is just dangerous. Even though Michigan State could win, but I just don't see it happening. And then this was one of those matchups that was kind of been tough trying to figure out who I want to pick. Because UConn is not as good as they were like the past few years. So I don't know. This one could be a toss-up, but I'm going to take UCLA to move on. Next in this region, we got in the Sweet 16, we got Vanderbilt versus Florida. Vanderbilt beat Florida recently, but I don't know if they're going to do it again, even though they got a very good team to do so. But I'm going to take Florida to win that one, to move on to the Elite Eight. Next, we got Illinois versus Houston. I don't think Illinois is going to beat Houston, so give me Houston. And then moving on, we got, up here at the top, we got Arizona versus Arkansas. I'm just not high on this Arizona team like a lot of people are. But could I really see Arkansas beating Arizona? I don't know. This might be a bad pick, but I don't want to do this, but I think I'm going to take Arkansas, even though Arizona I've heard is pretty good, but I just don't believe it. Next, we got BYU versus Purdue. I'm going to take Purdue to easily win there. Next, we got Michigan versus Alabama. Alabama could definitely knock off Michigan, but I just don't see it, so give me Michigan to move on. Virginia versus Iowa State. I think this is where Iowa State's not going to move on because they're not a good free throw shooting team, which is going to hurt them. So give me Virginia Cavaliers to move on against Michigan. Now moving on over here, go to the top. We got St. John's versus Duke. Ooh, Duke is a good team, but they've having injuries this year going into this tournament. I'm hearing a lot of good things about the St. John's team, that they could potentially move on and beat Duke. So I don't know, because I took them last year and they didn't win. So I don't know. And I've taken Duke before, but Duke has just never been good. I never won every time I picked Duke to win. So I think I'm going to take St. John's to beat Duke right there. South Florida versus UCLA. Ooh, this one could be definitely a good game if this happens. Out of two good teams, but I think South Florida is just too good of an underdog team. So I'm going to take them to keep moving on in their Cinderella run. Next, we got Florida versus Houston. Oh, this one could be a good matchup too. Because Calvin Sampson, the Houston's head coach, has been so close to win a championship so many times. This one is kind of a tough one, but I think I'm going to go with... I'm going to take Houston to move on against Florida there. To move on to what? The Final Four, the Elite Eight? Now moving on, we got Michigan versus Virginia. I just don't think... Michigan's been in so many close games lately, and I think the Virginia team has a very good chance of knocking off Michigan of the tournament. So I think I'm going to take Virginia to move on there. Next, we'll go back up to the top. We got Arkansas versus Purdue. Or do I want to take Arizona and just trust? Nah, actually, I'm not going to do that. We got Arkansas versus Purdue. I think I'm going to take Purdue to beat Arkansas. I think they just got a good team to win. Next, we got St. John's versus South Florida. I think this is probably where the run ends for South Florida, so I'm going to take St. John's to move on. I just don't think they're good enough to move on to the Final Four. So now, for the Final Four, we got Purdue and Virginia versus St. John's and Houston, so I got no 1 seeds making it, which is kind of crazy. And this might be a bad idea if I do this, so actually I think I'm going to change some things and take Arizona to be the 1 seed to be in it, and Arizona to be Purdue. As much as I don't like Arizona, a lot of people are saying this team is good. I'm not gonna have high hopes for them because they always choked before, but I want to have at least a 1 seed in there. So we got St. John's versus Houston. I'm gonna take Houston to move on to the championship game. And then we got Virginia versus Arizona. I'm gonna take Arizona to move on there. Even though I never had any of these two teams being in my champions earlier this month, but think from it though, I'm gonna take Arizona to move on and win the championship, and then the combined score, I've had it as like 153, like 70 to like 73, something like that. But yeah, I know it's probably not the best bracket, but let me know what y'all think down below in the comments. And yeah, it's gonna do for this video. If y'all enjoyed, make sure to like button, so if you're out to recommend it, hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so I don't miss any more videos and soon as I post. And it's a bit chest, I'll see y'all on the next one.